How can I let it all go when I have to think about my future? This is a common one I get. How can I let it all go? How can I be present if I have to think about my future? Ooh, you know what this means? This means your ego is holding on for dear life, my friends. What happens when we think? What happens when we think we have control? Remember, control is an illusion. So if you think you're trying to do something, you're trapped in the illusion. And remember, anytime we think, or anytime we think we have control, or that we think we're somebody doing something, or that we think that we know, we're trapped in the illusion, right? So if you are trying to think to control your future, you're attached. And any attachment is going to keep us trapped in lower perspectives. And what happens when we're in lower perspectives? Well, we're not going to be able to let the open channels of communications come in from the divine, our higher self, God, right? There's always a higher perspective. So anytime we're attached, we don't have to think about anything. We don't have to think about the future. We don't have to plan for the future. What is surrender? Right? Surrender, which all the great spiritual teachers and works keep telling us to do, give it all up. Surrender is giving up the illusion of control and allowing God, the divine higher self, to work through us. So we don't need to think or plan about the future. It's hard for a lot of people to accept that or to put that into action because our ego is holding on for dear life. Our ego sees that we're kind of considering it or questioning it and says, "Oh, no, you can't just listen, buddy, you can't just give it all up. You got to think about what about the future. You got to think, you got to plan, you got to organize. That's an attachment. And anytime we're attached, you're going to be stuck in lower perspective, and you're going to be stuck in the cycles of thought, and you're going to think you're somebody doing something, and you're going to be trapped, and you're going to be trapped in everything. You're going to be trapped in all the attachments, and you're not going to be able to see the highest truth, the highest perspective, the highest truth. So remember, we don't need to think about anything. What is surrender? Surrender is giving up control. So what do we do if, say, we're having trouble giving up the idea of thinking about the future? What do we have to do? We have to work on dissolving the ego, because your ego is the one tugging you back in and saying, no, you got to stay. You can't let it all go. You can't do it. You can't do it. Well, as long as we're letting the ego tug us back in, we're going to be coming back round again. Because anytime we have any attachments, we're going to be stuck in the illusion. We got to give it all up. So how do we work on dissolving enough of that ego so we can start to be like, you know what? I can give it all up. I can let it all go. Well, presence and purification. A lot of times, presence is part of not being able to let it go. How can I stay present if I have to think about my future? Well, we have to start easing into it, like things like meditation, purification, facilitating a state of peace, reconstituting the mind. All these things will help us slowly gain higher perspectives until we can kind of break free from that grasp, that last bit of ego it has on us, until we can see that the only answer to any of our problems really is surrender, is complete surrender to God. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. I am surrendering to the eternal present moment of God's love. That's all there is. Because remember, any thought or attachment to thinking we're somebody doing something and we're in control, we know something, is just part of the illusion. That's creating separation. And that separation is going to keep us trapped in the illusion. We want to go back to the whole, which is the center of the circle, higher self, the divine, God, the Atman, right? We're trying to get back to the center of the circle. So we have to get rid of these attachments. Because as long as we're trapped in the separation, in duality, we're going to keep coming around again, and we're going to be trapped in some sort of cycles of suffering, right? So it's all about working on ourselves, dissolving the ego. I made a video called The Burden of Ego, Dissolving Yourself, where I kind of explain step by step how we go about working on dissolving that ego. So we don't have to worry about the future, guys. We don't. Because when we surrender, God is taking care of all of it, everything. The divine is working through us. Everything is perfect. We don't have to chase money. We don't have to worry about anything. What is worry? What is stress? Stress is us being attached to thinking we're somebody and we have control, right? How do we get rid of stress? We stay present because we're stuck in cycles of thought or what's going to keep us stressed, what's going to keep us worried. Why are we worrying about anything when we're really the observer? We just think we're the actor. We're identifying with the actor, which is keeping us stuck in the illusion and keeping us stuck in the cycles of suffering and bringing us back again in the cycles of rebirth over and over again. So the biggest thing to take away from this, I guess, all my videos kind of come back to the same thing. We have to detach ourselves from all these lower perspectives, which is a process. Remember, the presence is a practice. So just try it yourself. See what happens. Well, I got to think about working and making money. I got to think about buying food. No, you don't. I managed to do it staying present. You can stay present doing anything. Just because you're staying present and you're stopping thinking doesn't mean you're just going to turn into a limp potato. That's what my brother was saying. He's like, well, if I stop thinking and staying present, well, I'm not going to feed myself. I'm not going to work. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You're naturally going to do things. I can stay present and I'm still going to be nature running off, right? Because again, we're just the observer anyway. The same exact thing is going to happen, only instead of identifying with the actor, we're the observer. So we're still going to go to the grocery store, take care of our kids, do our jobs, X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, but we can be present while doing these things. And this is how we dissolve the ego. We don't have to plan for the future because the presence is the higher self, is allowing God to work through us to do our highest good. What about manifesting? Well, I got to think to manifest. I got to say these things. No, you don't. If you're trying, you don't have to try. Remember, you don't have to try to do anything. You don't have to try to manifest anything. That's kind of a trap too. If you're trying to manifest something because you're going to be stuck, you're stuck in thought, you're trying to do something, you're attached. Any attachment is going to keep you caught in some level of the illusion. Well, how do I get better things if I'm not manifesting it or if I'm not planning? When you're present, when you stay present and you start dissolving ego and you give up attachments, as the divine works through you, you will naturally bring in, you're raising your vibration, you will naturally attract. I do not chase, I attract, right? There's that affirmation. I do not chase, I attract. That's what happens when we work on raising our vibration through presence and purification. Naturally, we will attract exactly what we need to allow the divine to continue to work through us. We don't have to worry or think or plan about anything because that's all an attachment from our ego, thinking we're somebody and we have to do something or we have to plan something, right? We don't need any of that, guys. So we just got to let it all go. Just surrender. That's all. I know, easier said than done. Again, it's a practice. So if we're stuck in planning for the future mode, remember that's an attachment. That's going to keep us caught in illusion. And as long as we're thinking, we're going to be caught in lower perspectives because there's always a higher perspective. Always. There's a perspective of God. Cosmic consciousness is the highest perspective. The universe all in one. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.